That's Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma, daf Chav Zayin, and we're going to start from daf Chavav Amid Beis, about 8 lines from the bottom. And the name of this page is throwing something off a roof. Rabba gezogt Zora Kli B'Rosh Hagag. Someone throws a vessel off a roof. Uva Achar, and somebody else came, Ushvaroi b'makel, and broke it with a stick. So as it's flying off the roof, so when it flies off the roof, it's almost guaranteed it's going to break, right? Eventually, if it's the ground. By the way, if you throw a penny off the Empire State Building and it hits somebody, that person won't get killed. But I'll just, that has to do with physics anyway. But if you throw a keli from the Rosh Hagag and somebody came and broke it right before it landed, so he doesn't have to pay. Why? Even if he took a baseball bat and whacked it, my tama, mana tvira tavar. That means this keli was destined to break anyway. It was flying down from the roof. So when he broke it prior to it landing on the sidewalk, he was breaking an already broken keli. Another thing Rabba said, Zora kli merosh hagag. A man threw a keli from the top of the roof. So, and v'hoya tachtov karam uksasois. It had pillows and covers. It would have broken it would have not broken because it would have landed on a soft landing. A bo'acha, and somebody came visilkon. Right before it landed, somebody came and pulled away the pillows. Or he himself, let's say he had a string attached to the cover, and he himself moved it, right? So Potter, he's Potter from the guy that threw the keli off is Potter. Both. So why? My time, what's the reason? You took it away, now it broke. That means when you took it, it was we need somebody to break it like physically, and therefore the person that took away the pillow is called he caused the nezek. He didn't really do the nezek, but he only caused it. And a grama b'nezakin is potter. Okay, if we want to chayiv somebody for doing damage, he has to actually physically do the damage, not to and by pulling away the pillow so that the keli lands on the floor. That's not physically doing the damage. That's causing to do a damage. We begin new Gemara on Chavav Amid Beis on 5 lines from the bottom. V'yoma Rabba said, Zorak tinoik merosh hagag. A man throws a baby off the roof. Okay. It sounds like New York City. And somebody else, as the baby is flying off the roof, somebody else held a knife, a sword there, and killed the baby that way. So the question is, who is the killer over here? Is it the one that threw the baby off the roof, or the one that caught it in the knife? So plukted Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir Rabbanim. That's a machlekes between Yehuda ben Meseir and Rabbanim. Because according to Rabbanim, you're going to be potter. The Tanya we learned in a brisa, he kol asora b'nei adam. If 10 people whack somebody, basara maklos with 10 whips, bein b'vasachas, whether they do it all at one time, bein b'zeh if they do it one after another, hulan peturin. If the guy dies, we go to Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, they're all potter. Why? Because 10 people that kill a person is nobody's the Rotzeach, because the only time the Torah calls somebody a Rotzeach is Yaket Kol Nefesh Adam. He killed the entire person. And since all of them are participating in killing this person, there's no one Chayav Misa. So according to Rabbanim, the baby that's thrown off the roof was collectively killed by the guy that caught the baby with the sword. So therefore, there's 2 people causing the death of the baby, they're potter. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir says, when 10 people are whacking somebody, one after another, so by the 10th guy, the victim is never spent, and then the last one just gave him such a blow and he killed him. Ha'achar chayev. The last one is chayev. Mipnei shekerev misasa. He brought his death very near. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir will hold by the case of the tinuk, the guy that's holding the sword, he's the one that's chayev misa. He's the killer. The same way Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir holds that if 10 people try to kill somebody, the last guy to give the final blow, he's the one that's considered the Reitzeach. Now, we know that if an animal kills a human being, the animal is chayev, the owner of the animal has to pay koifer, the value of somebody. So there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yochanan and the Rabbanan who have an argument. Who when the Torah says you have to pay koifer, what value do you put? Do you put the victim's value or the perpetrator, the mazik's value, the owner of the ox's value? So let's listen to this case. Again, the baby was thrown off the roof, and Bar Shar v'kibloi bekarnav, and the ox came and caught the baby with its thorn, with its horn. So obviously the baby got killed. So the owner of the ox, have to pay koifer. That will be a machlekes between Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Breke, and the Rabbanim. The Tanya, we learned to the Braisa, the nosan pidyon nafshe, you have to pay koifer. The meinizok, the value of the victim. Well, according to Rabbanim, the value of the victim over here is a baby. A baby in monetary terms is not worth anything. So there is no koifer over here. Rabbi Yishmael ben Noish, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breke, the mei mazik. You pay the value of the perpetrator, the owner of the ox, his value. Well, the owner of the ox is an adult, so he would have to pay koifer in the case where the kid, the baby, was caught by the horns of an ox. New Gemara. Now the Gemara talks about fascinating things. V'amar Rabba said, Nafal Mareisha Gag. A guy falls from the roof. Okay, he's standing on the roof, and all of a sudden he tripped. He fell off the roof. And listen what happened. Beniska be'isha. He penetrated into a woman. He was a woman. So the question is, so b'chayev b'dalat dvarim. He's chayev with 4 things. Why? Because it's really his fault. What's he doing on a roof? And the wind that blew him off was a regular wind. It wasn't a hurricane. So he's chayev the dalat dvarim. But uviyavimtoi, if he had landed on his yavama and he had relations with her, Loikani, he did not acquire her. Even though when you're acquiring a Yavama, you don't have to have full intention. If you don't know who you're having bia with, and it turns out it's your Yavama, you're kind of her. But here, he didn't even have intention to do any bia. So therefore, he's not kind of her. But Chayev Benezek, so the Gemara explains what Rabba meant. You chayev to pay when you fall from the roof and you banged onto a woman. So there you chayev to pay the damages, the pain, the doctor bills, and the lost wages. Embarrassment loy, because embarrassment has a unique quality to it that you have to have intention to embarrass somebody. It's now we learned in the Mishnah, you're not chayev to pay boishes until you have full intention that you want to embarrass somebody. So unless you have full intention to slap somebody or whatever, then you chayev boishes. Other than that, all accidents, you're not chayev to pay. But adam muad la'olam, always a human being is considered to be forewarned if he does things by mistake, except for boishes. The Amar Rabba said, Nafal mirosh hagag, beruach she'eino mitzuya. A guy fell from a roof with a wind that was not, a guy fell from a roof with let's say a hurricane came. V'hizik, and he damaged. Ubiyish, and he caused somebody embarrassment. By falling on somebody, he caused them embarrassment. Chayev al nezek. Upotter b'dalat dvarim, you're potter from all those things because it's not your fault. A hurricane came and blew you off the roof. But if it's a normal wind, v'hizik ubiyish, chayev b'dalat dvarim upotter al boishes. Again, the same idea. If it's a normal wind, you chayev on the 4 things, but boishes not, because again you didn't have intention to do damage. The point is, in order to chayev on boishes, you most likely have to have an intention to damage somebody. V'im this hapech. Let's say in mid and as he's falling off the roof, he makes a twist and he wants to land on somebody to ease his fall, and therefore his intention is to cause somebody else damage. Then chayev al haboishis. Then you chayev to pay for boishis, because you don't need him to intentionally embarrass somebody, but he has to intentionally want to damage somebody. The Tanya we learned in the Brisa, the Torah describes embarrassment, where a man is having a fight with another man, and all of a sudden the wife of one of the men grabs a hold of the organ of the other man, and it causes him some embarrassment. So you have to pay boishes. The Torah says she stretched her hand and she held on to it. Isn't that the same idea that she holding tight onto something and causes pain and damage? That the woman held on to it tight, saying shilcha yada would be enough. The Torah is telling you, as long as you have intention to do damage, even though you don't have intention to do embarrassment, that's enough to mimchayv you for boishes. So again, a guy's falling off the roof and he spins and he intentionally tries to land on somebody, even though he had no intention to embarrass him, but he intentionally was to do damage to ease his fall, so he will be chayiv to pay boishes. Rabba said another thing. Let's say a guy, somebody else put a hot coal on his heart, and the guy who got the coal put on his heart didn't do anything to throw the coal off his body. Umeis, then he died. Potter. The guy that put the coal there is Potter. Why? Obviously, because the victim should have thrown the coal off his body. Why did he leave it on his body? But al bigda, if he put the coal on somebody's, let's say, coat, the nisraf, and the coat got burnt, even though the guy could have thrown the coal off his coat, chayev, the guy who put the coal there, the hot coal there, is chayev to pay, because the guy wearing the coat says, I don't care if you burn my coat, I'm going to make you pay, and that's why he doesn't have to throw it off. This is what Rabbah said. Rabbah said, Tarvayu tananinu tananiyu. We have two mishnayos that support what Rabbah just said. The al libay, the case when you put the coal on somebody's heart, is this. We found the following Mishnah in Masechta Sanhedrin. The Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, Kavash olav l'toicha ur l'seicha mayim. Someone pushed somebody into a fire or into water, and the victim, the victim had no way of getting out of the water. He's just keeping his head down on the water, like the mafia. Chayev. So then the guy is a killer. The chaf, you push somebody into a fire or into a water, it's a regular swimming pool, and he could easily have come up. Misham and he decided not to come up. He decided to take his own life. Potter. Then the guy that pushed him in is Potter, because the person who was the victim could have saved himself. But big doy. But what about the case of the clothing? The Tanam, we learned to the Mishnah. If somebody goes over to somebody and says, "Kara is susi," rip my clothing. Shabar is kadi, break my jug. So I give you permission to rip my clothing or break my jug. Chayev. The one that does it is chayev, because his intention was, do what you want to my clothing, but you're going to still have to pay. Almanas lifter, but if he made a condition, rip my clothing, and I'm not going to obligate you to pay, potter, you're potter from paying. So that is a support to what Rabbah just said. Boy, Rabbah asked one more question. You put the coal on the heart of his slave. Okay. Mahu, what's the din? So the heart of the slave is, the slave could have easily take the coal off his heart. Or if the slave is tied down and the owner's right there, the owner could easily have taken the coal off his heart, and the Eved died. Now the question is like this. The question is an Eved like the master himself? And therefore, if there's any negligence on the master himself or the Eved himself from protecting himself and getting this coal off his body, and he doesn't, so you can't obligate the one who put the coal there anything, because you could have protected yourself. Or maybe an Eved has a din like your ox. An Eved, a slave, is just really another possession that you have. And if I put a coal on, if somebody puts a coal on somebody else's ox and the ox dies, even though the ox may have been able to shake it off, but since the ox is a value possession belonging to somebody, the one that put the coal there is chayev to pay. So that's the question. Rabbi asked, if you put the coal on the heart of your slave, what's the dim? Is it like your own body? And therefore, we demand that the Eved take the coal off his body, or the master do that on behalf of the Eved. Or is it like the value of the money of his own possessions, and will always fine or consider liable the one that put the coal there? If you want to say that it's his body, what happens if you put the ox? What happens if you put a coal on somebody's ox? This is what Rabbi explained and answered it. Avdoi is kegufoy. The slave is like your goof. Shoyroi is kamamoinit. An ox is like your beged. Just like we learned by beged, if you put a coal on somebody's beged and he doesn't want to take it off, you chayev to pay. If you put a coal on somebody's ox, it's like you put it on his possessions and you chayev to pay, even though the maybe the ox could have taken it off. But an eved is like you're putting the coal on yourself, and you don't hold liable the one that put the coal there. Hadronalach kates at a regal. New parak. Somebody puts jugs in the Rishus Rabim. He puts his jugs in the Rishus Rabim on the floor. Guy came and he tripped over the jugs and broke it. He's potter for paying for those jugs. And not only that, if he got damaged by it, let's say he cut his leg because he tripped over it. Baal HaChavi is chayiv b'niske. The one that owns these barrels is chayiv in the nezek. So the Gemara is going to right away jump on this language switch. What did he put in the? Did he put kad, a jug, or did he put a barrel in the Rishus Rabim? What did he do? What did the person do wrong? Pasach b'chad v'sayim b'chavius. The mission is a little strange. He started a sentence that he put jugs in the Rishus Rabim, and it ended talking about he put barrels in the Rishus Rabim. And we see this switcheroo in the middle of a Mishnah in two other places. We learned the same Mishnah. A guy was carrying a barrel. And a guy was carrying a beam, a long piece of wood. And they were both walking the Rishus Rabim, and the jug got broken with the beam of somebody else. Pata. So again, Pasach b'chavius, Mishnah starts off Zeba b'chavisoy, and then it's Nishbar Kadeh, V'sayim b'Kadeh, and it ends off switching the language from chavius to the word kad. We have the same Mishnah again. It seems that the Mishnah switches to in middle of a story to another description of what he was carrying. For example, Zeba b'chavisoy. Mishnah says somebody was coming with a barrel, shal yain. And this one was carrying a jug of oil, of honey. The barrel of the honey got split open. And this guy wanted to help him save his honey, so he spilled out the wine from his barrel and saved somebody else's honey into his barrel. Basically, honey is more expensive than wine, so he spilled out his wine in order to save the honey. He can't demand that the other guy pay for his wine. That's what the Mishnah says. But the point of the Mishnah is Pasach b'chad v'sayim b'chavis. The Mishnah started off saying that the person was carrying a kadosh shel davash. He was carrying a jug of oil, of honey, and then it says his barrel of honey got split. Again, you start with the word kad and you end off with the word chavis. Amar Papa explained. Hani kad, hani chavis. It's one of the same. People use that word interchangeably. What's the difference? When you do transact business, that if in business it says in the contract that you have to give a chavius, you can get away with giving a kad, because you can say in my language I understand that a chavius could mean a kad, something smaller. Says the Gemara, Heichadami. What's that talking about? If it's a city, if they're very direct and it has a very narrow meaning, a kad is a jug, a chavius is a barrel. How could you switch that in the business? If the contract says barrel, you cannot switch it for a jug. So what's the case that it doesn't matter? And since the Gemara we're talking about a case Most people in the city call a jug, a barrel, a barrel. But there are other people, the korele lechavisa kada chavisa. Some people mix them up. Some people call a barrel a kad, a chavias. So in the contract it said chavias, he could say my chavias is a jug. Because Mao the same, I would have thought Zul Basaruba, you go after most of the people in the city. Kamash Malon, they ain't holchem b'mochma. And you don't go, when it comes to monetary issues, you don't go after the majority, you go after the muhsik, the guy who's supposed to give over whatever he decides, how he calls it. A chavias is a chavias or a kad. If he calls a kad a chavias, he could switch it, because the other guy has to prove that he he meant a chavias. So therefore, that's why our Mishnah uses it interchangeably to teach you that in some places, some people call a kad a chavias, a kad. The Mishnah continued, somebody tripped over the jugs in the Rishus Rabin and broke them, he's potter. Says the Gemara, am I potter? Why would somebody be potter if he breaks jugs that were lying in the Rishus Rabin? He should have looked where he was going before tripping over something. Usually a person, when he walks in the street, knows that he should see what's in front of him, not to break somebody else's jugs. Amri de Rav Mishmei de Rav b'mamali Rishus Rabin kuli chavias. Wow, he says Rav said our Mishnah is talking about a guy clogged up the whole public thoroughfare with jugs. So the guy who's trying to pass through is now going to be delayed. So he has to get through. You can't clog up the whole Rishus Rabim. So therefore, he on purpose basically went through and passed over the jugs and broke it. And the Mishnah says you're potter from paying. That's Rav's interpretation of the Mishnah. Shmuel says ba'afei l'shoni. Shmuel says our Mishnah is talking about when it was totally dark outside, so you couldn't see where you were walking. Rabbi Yochanan says b'keren zavis, when the Rishus Rabim makes a turn. So sometimes when it makes a sudden turn, you don't see what's lying on the floor because your eyes are looking where you're going. That's how three interpretations how to understand a Mishnah. Amar Papa said, Loi daikem as nisin eloi kishmul oik Rabbi Yochanan. Shmuel makes more sense according to Shmuel that our Mishnah is talking about it was dark outside, or like the Rabbi Yochanan said that the jugs were laying in a corner. The Ikarav, if it's according to Rav, the guy filled up the whole Rishus Rabin with his jugs. My Iri Nisko, who cares if the guy tripped over it? The guy who's trying to get through and is clogged up because somebody put all his jugs blocking the whole Rishus Rabim, he would have a right, afilu shavanami. If he's like an ambulance, he could smash those kadim that's blocking his way, because he has to get through, and nobody has a right to block the public Rishus Rabim. So why does the Mishnah says only if you tripped? Really, according to Rav, you could have said that the Mishnah, the guy has a right to break those jugs, because nobody has a right to block the Rishus Rabim. But why does it say he got tripped? I did the boil and missed the sefer, because the end of the Mishnah says, if the guy that broke the jugs actually cut his foot, the one that put the jugs there is chayiv to pay for the damages. The dafka niskel, only if he tripped over it. Avashava, but if he angrily started smashing somebody else's jugs, then we won't make the guy that put the jugs there pay for if it damaged his feet. If it damaged the guy that's breaking the jugs, the foot. Why? My time up. Who the azak anavshe? He caused his own damage. So therefore, by angrily smashing those jugs. So that's why that's why since the sefer could only be talking about if he accidentally tripped, that's why the Reisha will also be talking about if the guy accidentally tripped. Amalei Ravashi, Rababa said to Ravashi that they say over in Eretz Yisrael what Ula said, that really don't blame people. Our Mishnah is completely, it's during the daytime, and the guy tripped over those jugs, but realistically, most people are not looking down when they're walking. A person is not paying attention, he's thinking about something else, so you can't fault him if he tripped over those jugs. There was a story in Erdoi, and it was dark outside, and Shmuel said the guy is obligated to pay. Bipumpadisa, in the great city of Bumpadisa, and it was a guy who tripped over those jugs. V'chayiv Rava was chayiv him to pay, despite the fact that it was dark outside. The way Shmuel said, so the Gemara says, Bishlam might say, El Rava Shmuel Svirle, if it was maybe. Would Rava hold like Shmuel? Shmuel could say that it was dark outside, and that's why you can't fault him. Would Rava need that situation to be that it's dark outside? In other words, does Rava hold that if it was really a light outside, people will have to pay attention to the way they walk? Amar Papa explained. Rava could really hold like what Ula just said. When you walk, we can't fault you if you trip over something because we can't blame you that you don't see it, that we don't see it. And here, why Rava obligated the person that tripped over those jugs to pay in his city of Pumpadisa, because Kana the Atzre Hava, the cave in the Brishus Kavdi, Umeza. It was talking about that it was the corner that was very close to the oil press. And the minig was when you come to the oil press, there was such a line of people because it was one machine. People had the right to put their vessels down, their jugs down the Rishus Rabim. So it was a really special time that he should have known about to be more careful when he walks, and therefore Rava obligated him to pay. 2 more minutes, and then we'll stop. One Shalach Rav Chizda Rav Nachman. Rav Chizda sent a message to Rav Nachman. Harei Amru, they say that if you embarrass somebody, Lurakuva, if you embarrass somebody by giving him a knee in somewhere, maybe in his foot, you give him a knee, Shalash, you pay 3 slime. Labita, if you kick somebody, the boishes, the embarrassment is chomesh, 5 slum. Losanoikeres, if you hit him with the saddle of a donkey, shloish esra, you have to pay 13 slime of boishes. Lepanda demara, lekafina demara, the handle of a shovel or the blade of a shovel. You hit somebody like that. How much should I pay boishes? That was Rav Chizda question to Rav Nachman. Now Rav Chizda lived in Bava. So wait, boishes is only a knas. It's a fine. It's a penalty. And in Bavel, Shalchle, so Rav Nachman answered back, Chizda Kanasa Kamagbis Babel. What are you doing over there? Boishes doesn't exist in Bavel. It only exists in Eretz Yisrael when you had a bezdin of smuchim, but not in Bavel. There's no such a thing of collecting fines in Bavel. Rav Nachman requested from Rav Chizda, tell me what is the story? Why are you asking me this question? So Rav Chizda answered, there was a well that belonged to 2 people. Listen to the story. So one of them started taking water from this pit. It wasn't really his day to take water from the pit. They would alternate days. And one guy just came on the day that wasn't his and started pulling water out of the pit. Amalei, so the other one said, but it's my day. Why are you taking water out of the pit? So the other guy didn't listen to him. Shakal Panda, the Mare Machia. He took the blade, the handle of a shovel, and he whacked him. So the Rav Chizda wanted to know, what's the baishas for that? Amalei, so Rav Nachman said, Meya Pande Bepanda Lemichia. Even if he would have whacked him 100 times with the handle of the shovel, that would have been also all right, because he did a good thing. Even according to the opinion that you can't be a vigilante, right? You can't take the din in your own hands. You have to go to Bezdin. But Makam Seda, but right, if the loss is happening right in front of your face, of it inish dina denafshe, a person could take the law in his own hand. You could be Bernie Getz. We learned in the Braisa of Yehuda Amma of it inish dina nafshe. A person cannot take the law into his own hands. He has to go to Bezdin. Rav Nachman Amma of it inish dina nafshe. Rav Nachman says you could take the law into your own hands. So heiche the ikab seda, if the loss is happening as in front of you, kuli alma loy pligida of it inish dina nafshe. Then you could take the law in your own hands, like the case of the well. The guy was taking water out of the well and it wasn't his day, and therefore, if he continues to take, we will never know how much water he took. So the guy could take a blade and whack him over and tell him to stop. When is the argument? Hey, the lake of Seder, if the loss happened already. So right now there is no loss happening. So on this, the Gemara says, a person can never take the law into his own hands. Keep the lake of Seder, since there's no loss right now, we require you to go to Bezdin. Rav Nachman says, Ovid inish dina de nafshe. This is a beautiful thing. You can take the law into your own hands, and you don't have to waste time filing your case in court. The kivan, the bedin of it, since you know the law, loy tarach, you don't want to bother waiting till the court's in session. So therefore, according to Rav Nachman, you can take the law into your own hands. So we're going to discuss this machlekes tomorrow about if you could be a vigilante or not, and taking the law in your own hands.